Hello everyone, welcome to the Breeders' Cup preview show on the At The Races social media feed, sponsored by Unibet. I am Matt Chapman. You may have seen me on Sky Sports Racing and the At The Races social media feeds before. This is Peter Fornatale. Welcome, Peter.
Welcome to you, my friend. Great to be here at Del Mar. I was promised sunshine. This looks like weather you might be a little more accustomed to back home.
Yeah, I like to feel homely. Pete, of course, all you regular Stateside fans will know is absolutely on the money when it comes to betting Stateside. And Pete, this is not typical weather for Del Mar, but it is going to be sunny for the Breeders' Cup at the weekend. The most important thing to let people know about this track who know nothing about American racing or indeed American racetracks is they're often tight left-handed. This makes Chester look as though it's got long straights.
It's a very good description, and you can see it from where we are up here at an elevated point of view. It's a very sharp bend, hairpin-like, and it can come into play. It can be harder for runners who are coming from farther back because you don't have a very long stretch, and you've got a real difficult turn to navigate when you're coming from home.
Of course, I guess the counter to that is, and we do see it in European racing in different circumstances, that all the jockeys know that as well. And there's always that possibility of a speed duel, a smash up front, because they're thinking the same as the punters, that if you're not on the front end, if you're not out the gate quickly, you can't win.
Learned a long time ago in this game that the jockeys and their agents, they study the form too. And what you're saying is absolutely correct. It's going to be interesting to see how these pace shapes play out at this year's Breeders' Cup, especially on the turf.
Having said all that, if we can find something that might get loose on the front end, it's clearly a huge advantage around here.
Really, one of the true biases of American racing is that early speed typically will hold when it's good enough, and there's a lot of interesting front runners to potentially sink our teeth into at the Breeders' Cup this year.
You may have seen on the At The Races social media feeds, Peter's done an excellent article on one or two people's favourite Breeders' Cup moments, including the great Lester Piggott. If you haven't catched up on that yet, please do so. But Pete, what's your greatest I mean, it's got to be a punting moment. So tell us, what's your greatest Breeders' Cup punting moment?
Oh, that's such a good question. I'll go back to Santa Anita and the famous Man O Mandela Day when he won 4 races. And I was not across all 4 of them, but I was across 3 of them, and ended up doing some parlaying, and it was a pleasant night that night in Saratoga.
And it is a little bit like backing a winner at Cheltenham. People, will say, oh, you don't want an 8-5 shot, or you don't want a 2-1 shot. But there are certain meetings where if you back horses at those shorter prices, odds on whatever, they feel bigger. Not financially, but the feeling that you get from having one of those winners. And I always believe the feeling is something to do with it. The cash return is important. But something about this game is how it makes you feel inside.
There's an emotional value to be able to say, hey, I had the winner and these other people didn't, that is worth more than money. I absolutely agree. I mean, I've taken betting seriously and done it from a more academic standpoint or professional standpoint. That's one thing. But when you're talking about the Breeders' Cup, that thrill of being right, the thrill of being on the winner is at least half the equation for me at this point.
And the final thing I'd like to say about Breeders' Cup is that at Cheltenham you have the British against the Irish, to be honest. That's what it is for a lot of people, and that creates atmosphere. This is the only race meeting that I really feel it is USA against the United Kingdom, against Ireland, sometimes against France as well, obviously against Japan as well this time around, a big Japanese raiding party. And I always remember it in the Tis Now Saki race, which I've talked to you about on your great social media article, because the commentator in that says Tis Now for America. And that tells you all you need to know.
The international competition is great, and we're going to see it this year in some ways more than we ever had. A record-tying 46 entries from around the world, 8 different countries represented. But yeah, in terms of an international Breeders' Cup race, nothing beats that 2001 Classic and the Tom Durkin great line, "Tis now" wins it for America.
Yeah, thunderous commentary. $31 million up for grabs. That's not a bad couple of days' work. What we're going to do is try and find you a winner. We picked 5 each that you might or might not want to take a look at. So, Pete, first of all, your first selection is?
I'm going to go with Jackie's Warrior in the sprint. This is a horse I've long been a big fan of. Disappointed in the Juvenile last year, finding the distance a bit too far. Since cut back to sprint distances, nothing short of brilliant. He's got a pace advantage. We talked about that early speed and how that'll play to your advantage in American racing. I think they're all chasing Jackie's Warrior. I think he's, for me, as likely a winner as any horse at this year's Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, and he's a horse who's beaten one or two big names who actually could win here this week in his time.
That's right. That's one of my next selections. We'll save that commentary for the next bit.
Right. So that's selection number one from Pete. It is Jackie's Warrior. I'm going to start with, where shall I start? I know I've got one that's the same as Pete, so I'm going to leave that one for the timing. Look, let's keep it simple straight away. I'm going to go Tarnawa in the Breeders' Cup Turf. Now, drawn 13, some experts might think that's a disadvantage. I think it's perfect for her because she wants to run at a strong pace and she will just slot in from the back. If you're drawn 1 and you're wanting to come off a strong pace, you can get trapped in behind. From 13, okay, you're starting off a little bit wide, but you just drop in behind the pace. This is a horse who has a telling turn of foot. She's not really been able to use that this season so far because in the arc at Longchamp, the ground was too deep. And of course, over a mile and a quarter against St Mark's Basilica, she just wasn't quite fast enough. Mile and a half, turn of pace. I believe she's the greatest racehorse that Dermot Weld has ever trained. And I expect Tarnawa to win the turf, but you don't.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah?
I didn't think there were too many bigger Tarnawa fans than me. You clearly are one. I just am a little bit nervous about the circumstances and how Del Mar plays as opposed to how Keeneland plays. And while I think you make a good case that the draw maybe dictates tactics and is not a negative for her, I'm just worried about the ground she's going to lose around here. She's a likely winner. She's a more likely winner than my selection, but at the prices, and at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. I am going to go in a different direction. For me, that different direction is Walton Street. Proven going left-handed. He's got form to the arc, close-up form to the arc winner from Germany. A 110 Beyer speed figure the last day in Canada, but critically, he's got a lot more tactical speed, and from that middle draw, I think he's going to get a great trip around here. I'm going to take him into the teeth of your 6-4 Tarnawa. What's your next selection?
Yeah, so is Walton Street one of your 5?
He is.
He is, wow. I mean, he's just, Canadian form. Hello, this is the Breeders' Cup. It's not, the Mauritian World Cup. It's the Breeders' Cup. Walton Street.
What?
Look, it's not impossible, but I'm not sure he has got speed. I think he's quite slow.
Don't hedge. Don't throw that it's possible thing in there. Take me on.
Well,
tell me you can't. Tell me you can't hit the board.
He can't hit the board. Like your beer. How slow is he?
Here's the thing. I'm a big believer in the clock, and the clock says he is fast enough to win a average running of the Breeders' Cup Turf. And then the form. I get it. I guess you're tossing out the arc form because of the ground, but I feel like whether you're looking at the clock or the form book and you're designing this race in your head, I think there's a case to be made for the horse, especially, I'm not saying I'd back him at 6-1, but 16 the last I saw. This is a horse who I'm going to have some money on.
There's 2 from Pete so far, 1 from me. My second is going to go in the Breeders' Cup Mile. I might surprise Peter here a little bit because I don't like, and I hardly ever thought I'd say this, but I don't like the Europeans in the Breeders' Cup Mile. We're talking about the turf mile here, not the dirt mile, the turf mile, because Space Blues is a 7-furlong bully on juicy ground. He's now favourite for a 1-mile race on fast ground. Got to take him on. Mother Earth, she is just not a superstar in my opinion. So I've got to go with Mo Forza, who's around a 6-1 shot. Peter Miller trains, 8 from 9, the Holyfield Derby winner. Interesting thing about Mo Forza, it's not a massive positive. The last time that horse really tackled Grade 1 company was a long time ago. It hasn't been mixing at the top level, but I just think Mo Forza is up against some substandard Europeans. I like French raiders in this type of race, and there aren't any this time around. And I think Mo Forza at around 6-1 is a great each-way bet.
He loves it around here. He's got the form on the local horses. I think that the local contingent in the mile is pretty strong in general. I'm not ruling out Smooth Like Straight as a horse who, been very close up to your pick. I didn't make Smooth Like Straight one of my 5, but I think it's an interesting race. And I think you might be onto something with those local horses against the European contingent in this year's mile.
And you have to remember that the bookmakers, including our friends at Unibet, they will make the European runners shorter than they should be because they expect the European runners to win on the turf. But I don't think this is the strongest raiding party ever. I might be wrong. So we got up 2 from 2 so far. Give us your third, Peter.
We talked about the turf mile. Let's talk about the dirt mile. I think there's a short-priced favorite in here, and you alluded to this race before, I think, when you were talking about Jackie's Warriors form.
Yeah.
That super impressive race in the Jerkins at Saratoga that I had the pleasure of watching in person. Life is Good. He was a little bit short for that race. He looked like he was going to win. Jackie's Warrior, such a fighter. He dug back in. Since then, Life is Good has been out again. He's now third race off the layoff. I think he's going to be set for a peak effort. I don't think there's much that can run with him in that race. I mean, there's good horses in there, Silver State, etc. But when you've got the fastest horse on an upline of form with a pace advantage, sign me up. Life is Good.
Yeah, and if you like Life is Good, check out the At the Races social media feed. I had a chat with Todd Pletcher earlier in the week, and he would not have put you off. And Life is does look really good. And let's face it, we're a Delmar. Life is good, Pete. It really is. My third selection, you want a good thing. You just want something that's going to win. And that horse is Latruska in the Distaff. 4 Grade 1s this year. The Spinster was unbelievable. The headgear off has really made a difference. Speed of the speed, we've talked about it already, but this horse does get out. The interesting thing is old Fausto Gutierrez, he does say she's a bit mad, but maybe she's a little bit like Michael Dickerson, the mad genius. Maybe Latruska is the female mad genius, who knows? I think Latruska just gets out, away, and gone, Pete.
I can certainly see it. She's so good. She's so cool. As a racing fan, how do you not root for a runner like Latruska? But this is another situation where the way the market is shaping up, I'm going to take you on.
Oh.
Wouldn't be surprised one bit if you end up kicking sand in my face along with Latruska. It's happened before. But this has been a long campaign. This is the best field she's faced, and there's plenty of other speed in the spot. Now, she has faced other speed before and thrown them away and gone right on to victory. But this time around, I have a feeling there's a chance that an interesting closer could get involved. A lot of people are going to be looking at the impressive 3-year-olds stepping up and taking her on. I'm going to go with Dunbar Road in this spot. Dunbar Road has seen Latruska get the run of the race against her in the past, and she's tried all the way to the line, and she's come close enough. She's also had the race 2 back where she made an early wide move into a fast pace. This time around, I'm hoping with a proper hold-up ride and several other talented runners taking runs at Latruska, that Dunbar Road at 14-1, 16-1, nice each-way play. And the beauty of that each-way in the field of 8 or higher, even if Latruska does her thing, we're still live to get some cash with Dunbar Road. But I think if things shake out just right, she can win.
She's one of your 5?
She's one of my 5.
You've got one more to come. I'm going to give you my 4th. I already feel bad about Latruska, where I started off by saying this is the good thing of the meter, and Pete has gone against me. Look, the Breeders' Cup Classic, if you're here, is the only race that matters. It's really hard to comprehend that back home, because we go on about the Breeders' Cup Turf and the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile and all this stuff, and yet if you are here, those don't really matter. The only race that matters is the Breeders' Cup Classic, so you've got to tip something surely in that. It's not going to be original, because this is Speed of the Speed, the Dirt Mile winner. It has to be Nix Go, doesn't it? Brad Cox, 7 from 7, 2 turns, goes up to 10 furlongs for the first time. But let's not forget, Ghost Sapper did that, Zenyatta did that, and to be fair, Ravens Pass did that, although Ravens Pass didn't really win a Breeders' Cup Classic. But don't tell John Gosden that, because it was on an artificial surface, and it doesn't count. Although, to be fair to John, when the cash came through from the equivalent of Weatherby's over here, he probably did feel as though he had won the Breeders' Cup Classic. But Nix Go, I just think essential qualities, which are battling, tenacious, see the stars like, i.e. never wins too far but gets the job done. This track might not be the track for that kind of horse. If, of course, Nix Go gets some sort of speed duel up front and some other nutter goes and takes it on, that will very much suit an essential quality. And don't forget me wrong, Hot Rod, Harley, Medina Spirit, all the others in there. It's the classic of classics for me.
I get it. I think Nix Go's probably the most likely winner. If he runs back to his Whitney, I think he can answer the questions. I mean, the key questions are the 10 furlongs, as you noted, and also this idea of how he's going to deal with a very tough rival like Medina Spirit, who's not going to give him any breather. It would not surprise me one bit if he shakes him off and goes on to victory. He'll be on my tickets. I've not finalized the selection in there. I do think that speed duel could play to a runner like Essential Quality. They say he's a very smart horse, and he doesn't want to work harder than he has to, but he loves to win. It'd be a great storyline to see him out there. Him and his stablemate Brad Cox. They hold an extremely strong hand in this year's Breeders' Cup Classic. But I'm holding off on making a final selection. I did think that the 8-1 about Max Player was a little bit too big. But Nick Sco, as you point out, he's just too tough to stand in the way of for me from this far out anyway.
Remember, you get all the Breeders' Cup news on the At the Races YouTube. Always worth looking there. Facebook, a real good display on Facebook from the At the Races team. And you get us on Twitter and Instagram as well. Anything you want to find out about the Breeders' Cup, go to all the At the Races social media feeds. And we thank Unibet for backing us on this Breeders' Cup preview show. We have one more to bring. Your final selection for Breeders' Cup of the top 5 is?
Jack Christopher.
And do you want to know my final selection of the Breeders' Cup is?
Who's your final selection, man?
Jack Christopher.
Finally, some agreement here.
And some agreement, which is great. So why does Jack Christopher win the Breeders' Cup, Juvenile?
I think he's just the fastest horse. I mean, I'll just make the most basic case possible. That 102 Beyer speed figure he ran last time out, that's fast enough to win a typical running of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And I think the hands he's in, Chad Brown, he's only going to get better. There is a question going from the one-turn configuration at Belmont to the two-turn configuration here at Del Mar, how he's going to handle that. I think he's going to handle it great with his speed. I think he's going to get out of there and not be for catching.
I've never really worried about that here because it's basically one turn all the way around the track. So you're just going one turn, you keep turning. No, I think when this horse made the debut at Saratoga, I think it was, wasn't it? There just seemed to be vibes that there was something freakish about to happen, and something freakish did happen. And then in the Champagne, Jack Christopher just looked really, really good. Stall 1 might make people question. As we've said already in this preview, Stall 1 is great if you get out, and it looks like Jack Christopher is a forward-moving horse. But if you do miss the break from Stall 1, it's the worst stall to miss the break from.
It's not the gate I would have picked for him, let's put it that way,
No.
but it should
3, 4, 5, something like
yeah,
that?
put him in the middle. That way, if you do happen to break half a step slow, you know, with his natural speed, he'd be able to catch up. That's harder to do from down at the rail, but he breaks with alacrity, and I'm not too worried about it. This is a very, very talented horse. Had a chance to see him in the flesh this morning with his white blaze nearly glowing in the dark just as the sun was rising here at Del Mar. He looks in fine fettle, and I expect a very big effort.
And so do I. So there they are. Those are our selections, 5 each for Breeders' Cup 2021. Remember to keep up to date with all that news on the At the Races social media feeds, kindly sponsored by Unibet.